Good evening, ma'am. Welcome, ma'am.
Ma'am, welcome, ma'am. This is Danush Ganesh from St. Joseph's Institute of Technology. Welcomes you for the session. So here we go on to the session. It's a great evening for me for hosting the event, and I thank our department and the administration for providing this facility. So I welcome everyone for this event, and I I request Dr. D. Kripagaran, Sir, HOD, Triple Department, St. Joseph Institute of Technology, to give the welcome note.
Good evening and
Sir,
warm
please.
welcome to all. Yeah, it's my immense pleasure to welcome all for this excellent event and extend a hearty welcome on behalf of all of us to our today's expert, Dr. M. Ramya Madam. Ramya Madam is professor at Center for Automation and Robotics in Hindustan Institute of Technology Science, Chennai. Madam has completed her doctorate from the Major Kamaraj University in the year 2010 in the stream of computer science and holding MPhil and MCA degree. And Madam is a motivating professor. I think this 3 days theme consistently strives to create a challenging and engaging learning environment in which students become lifelong scholars. It's Madam has a proven record. Madam has developed a successful robo called Saili, which will distribute the medicines to COVID-19 patients in present scenario. Really, it's a great achievement on Madam's career. Madam has many accomplishments like authored multiple articles published in prestigious journals, including International Journal of Bus System, etc. Successful in obtaining grants from Naval Research Board and other central government agencies. Associate editor for many reputed journals. So, Madam has almost 7 funded projects, acting as a principal and co-principal investigator, which is in collaboration with central government agencies funded by central and state government agencies. I think we are gifted to have such a highly profile person with us today. With I feel Madam expertise will be useful for us for these 3 days. We can gain a vast knowledge on the robotics programming through the Madam's lecture. With this few words, I invite today's expert to take over the section. Thank you, Madam. Thanks for accepting our invitation, Madam, and sparing your valuable time with us in spite of your busy schedule. And at this juncture, I want to appreciate the staff coordinates Abhiram Madam, Karthik Sir, Sefa Sir, and mainly the student coordinator Dhanush, who is taking a lot of pain towards arrangement of such a useful event to students community. Really, I want to appreciate these people, all the participants for taking part in this event. I assure that this program, 3 days program, will be highly useful to resource to carry out the section. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot for giving a brief introduction, sir. Now, the speaker on the session will be started by the ma'am, Dr. M. Ramya, ma'am. So you can handle the session, ma'am.
Okay. So thank you for the very detailed introduction, and I thank the management of St. Joseph Institute of Technology and the faculty and the Department of Electrical and Electronic Sciences for giving me an invite and giving me this opportunity to share my knowledge on how we develop applications, especially robotic applications using MATLAB. I'll try to cover up a few basic things that we will be able to do, because when I went through the registrations, I found the students to be multidisciplinary. That's something interesting because robotics is an area where it is not an core electronics area alone. It is highly interdisciplinary. We will have to learn a little bit of mechanical, we will be learning a little bit of electrical and electronics, and we will be learning a little bit of programming as well. So if we have a multidisciplinary group here, sometimes mechanical students would feel I am teaching too very fundamental, because they would have learned few concepts of mechanical area that I'm going to touch upon to be very fundamental. And at the same time, few electronics or computing sciences, if you've done a little bit of programming already, it will be again a little fundamental for you. But we will have a mix of these getting along in order to develop the application. So I'll just start my presentation. Okay, is it visible now?
Is
the presentation visible?
It's not. Yeah, it's now visible now. Now it's visible now.
The screen is not visible, ma'am.
Is it visible now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It's visible.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. So, just a brief introduction about us. Me being a professor at Center for Automation and Robotics, Hindustan Institute of Technology and Science. We have been involving ourselves into a lot of research projects, right from UGC, DRDO, Royal Academy of Engineering, DST, and we also have projects from industries, okay, taking up as consultancy projects. So all these funding agencies have probably, appreciated or recognized our area of work. The area of work is too diverse in our center because my expertise, if you look at it, is more onto machine learning, machine vision, virtual and augmented reality, because I come from a computing sciences background. Similarly, we have people from core mechanical, core electronics, but slowly down the lane, because we started the center in 2014, and for the past 6 years, we have been communicating with each other by teaching the other domain to the other two, disciplines. So I keep talking about computing sciences to others, while other faculty keep talking about mechanical and electronic terminologies. So after 6 years of continuous discussions on various ideas and problems that we face, we have started learning a little bit on the other domains as well. And right now we concentrate more on also targeting on developing intelligent robots and autonomous robots, where not just
Ma'am, the voice is not clear, ma'am.
artificial
Ma'am, your voice is breaking, ma'am. Hello, ma'am. Hello, ma'am. Ma'am, can you hear me, ma'am? Guys, just please wait for a second. There is a technical issue. Hello, ma'am. Guys, please wait. There is a technical issue. So we will be connecting it soon, and ma'am will be connecting soon. So please wait for 2 minutes. Ma'am will be connecting again. Yes.
Is it
Yes,
audible
ma'am.
now?
Yes, ma'am.
It's
Sorry.
audible.
Okay. I just had to change the network connectivity. Sometimes Wi-Fi behaves so
Yeah,
bad.
sure,
Yeah.
ma'am. Yeah, sure.
Okay. Okay. Is the screen visible?
Not it, ma'am. Yeah, it's now it's visible.
Okay. So just stop me whenever you find it inconvenient or whenever you face some network issues.
Yeah, sure, ma'am.
Okay. So for today, we are going to cover up what robotic system toolbox is in MATLAB, what we are trying to develop, and what all functionalities are available, and why do we prefer this particular toolbox. And then we will also try utilizing the toolbox to build a simple robot. So that will be today's exercise. And I'll also teach you the programming on how we develop a robot. So when you develop a robot here, we will be actually concentrating on what all mechanical components has to be considered when you build a robot. And then if time permits, we will also see a simple application of path planning. If I mean, it all depends upon how fast you are able to cope up with the program development. If not, we will take this topic for the tomorrow's lecture. So this is my plan for today. Now, if you look at the robotic system toolbox, what we can do is right from designing a robot, okay, starting from the moment you need to design a hardware, you don't have to really jump into purchasing the equipment and start developing or assembling the hardware. You have to, the first part is you have to really design and simulate it. So if you want to simulate your design of the robot, then
Ma'am. Yeah, please wait, guys. Please wait. Ma'am is not talking. Please wait. Guys, please wait. Ma'am is not talking. Please stay on the line. Guys, please wait. There is a technical issue due to network issues. So we will be starting the session in 2 minutes. So can we have a small ice-breaking session now? So let's see how many of you are interested in robotics. Let's type your name as well as your interest in robotics in the chat box. Please don't turn on your microphones. I want to see how many of you are active here. So please type your name and your interest in robotics. So what is your interest? So not interested like interested in robotics, nothing like that. So what is your capability in robotics and learning? So only names are coming there. I need some attributes of robotics. What to say? Robotics consists of these things, and these are the interesting parts where I need to be learned. So I need those stuffs. So can we have this session here for until the ma'am resume the session? So many of them replied: Akshay, Aman Kumar, Akshaya, Omkar Pingle, Prashant, Vishal, Aritri Bera. So I need the attributes here. So Subhash R has given underwater robotics. Hindumati has given interested in control part of robotics. David, I need to know optimization algorithms, programming, interested in robotics, various sensors and actuators. Praveen B. So automation is one of the field too, and industrial automation. So is that these are the stuffs you wanted to learn, not more than that? Sensors in robotics, again, robot control, sensors, and fire extinguishing robot. So anything special about you? You are interested in robotics. So I need to know first basics of robotics. That's a great one. And ma'am has connected again. Simulation and programming, humanoid robots and neural networks. It's awesome. Neural networks and humanoid robots. So ma'am is connected again. So we will wait. Robotics and defense, learning about automation, application and innovation in industrial robots. It's awesome to know these many people are interested in knowing what is robotics. Machine learning. Okay. Anything else to say or anything else to discuss with your new friends? Robot means compulsory a slave. Starting a robot is called as robota. Yeah, cool. AI programming, hardware in programming in robots, MI and AI, robotics, AI programming. So machine learning. What about machine learning in robotics? So ma'am has started again. So we'll be going on to the session now. So ma'am. Ma'am, can you hear me, ma'am? So Priyanka, please turn off your
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I can hear you, ma'am.
Okay. And the screen also is shared?
Yes, ma'am. Screen is also shared.
Okay. 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 I guess there's some network issue.
Yeah, fine, ma'am.
Okay. So I was just telling you that we will be able to use the robotic system toolbox. I don't know where the call got disconnected. So I kept on talking until I received a call from one of your faculty to realize that I got disconnected. So I'll just, I was talking about the visualization. Okay, so when you build a robot, you can see the design of the robot, how it moves, the configuration, space, where the robot moves, and all that. mount the robot. And so we call this particular
Yes, ma'am, you're audible, ma'am. You're audible enough.
No, sir, ma'am is not audible.
Yeah, please wait. Microphone is on. So please, Yaneshwaran Abhiram, please pin the ma'am's first one, I mean presentation, in the chat box. So, ma'am, are you there? Please pin the ma'am's first one, Dr. M.M. Ramya, Professor. Presentation in the side, it will be there. So please click that. So there is some technical issue in the other side. So we'll, for 2 more minutes, please wait. Yeah, someone has responded for my ice-breaking question. Nanobots, AI with robotics, telepresence robot using Raspberry Pi, and want to know how MATLAB works in robotics. So it's so cool that many of you are interested in robotics as well as in additional programming as well as sensors and actuators along it. So you'll see at the end of the session what we are knowing to it and what you are learning newly, and synchronizingly what is the output of the session. So we will wait and see. There is a technical issue, and sorry for the interruption, and we will be correcting it soon. And any other what to say, nanobots in natural amendments like natural calamities, controls building. Yeah, that's a good one. Controls building is all over taking place with the programming itself. So movements, etc. Any other? So Ajay Mahadev has said that nanobots. Can you say something about nanobots in the chat box, man? Sir or man or friend? Okay. Sharmila has answered it. Ma'am or friend, whatever. In recent technologies, nanobots are used in medical field also. Ajay Mahadev in surgery too. Okay. Somewhat depth information or deeper into the subjects, I mean in the bots or the specific field of work, robotic surgery. Cool. Sorry, ma'am, we are yet to present the slides. Priyank Garg, defense, and any newer technologies has been introduced in bots till now. Nanobots are more designed to serve humans. Nanobots is lesser the size of microbots. Cool. These are the awesome responses for my ice-breaking sessions. There are only certain people are answering again and again. Gayatri M has said that to kill these cancer cells. So for COVID-19, robotics interested, drone industries as living cells are converted into bots. Yeah, this is cool, my friend. To deliver drugs and to targeted tissues, package delivery, armed drones, armed robots, industrial purpose, its robot. Yeah, cool. The answers are really cool. So, any particular field where humans are apted towards robots are increasing the capability of robotics in the field where humans can't work. Any other things? So, used for military nanobots, like a tablet-sized nanobots used in research DNA probes, self-charging robots, spy, outer space. Yeah, ma'am. Can you hear me, ma'am?
Yeah. Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah.
I'm extremely sorry. I don't know where the problem is. There's some problem with the network. Yeah. Let's see if
Okay, ma'am.
it works fine. Okay.
So sorry for the interruption, friends. So we will be starting the session right now. From here, ma'am will be starting it. So let's have the ice-breaking session at the end of the session today. So ma'am will be presenting it now.
My screen?
Not yet, ma'am. Not yet visible, ma'am. So sorry for the technical issue ahead, and it's due to the network problem in ma'am's area. So we will be waiting for a few more minutes. And sorry for this great interruption, and I'm sorry for this for spending this time. And we will be extending the session as soon as we can to complete the session's day. So let's go on to helpful for farmers hillside of military. Okay. So there is an issue, right? Always there is an issue that robots are not using as slaves again. So they have a chance that we can also be the slaves for others. So hi, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes, ma'am. It's fine now. Really fine.
Okay.
Please share the screen.
Sure. Okay. Is it okay now?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. It's okay, ma'am. Fine, ma'am. Sorry for the interruption, guys. And now we will be starting the session right now.
Okay. So we were trying to interact with the simulators that are available, and we're also interacting with the real robots. Now, the next thing is you can actually create all your programs and all that in your robotic system toolbox and then deploy it in your hardware directly. So you can see whether it is working properly in the simulated environment, or once everything goes fine, you can deploy whatever you have developed directly onto the hardware. So, of course, ROS log, whatever data that the robotic operating system keeps collecting from the robot can also be integrated or can also be communicated from and to the ROS with robotic system toolbox. So all these actually makes robotic system toolbox so handy for us to work with the robots. So I'll just skip this because this is quite fundamental. The traditional workflow is like this. We have hardware and then we have ROS toolbox, the robotic operating system, which works with the simulator. Now the traditional workflow of working with the robot is only this, because robotic operating system with the ROS nodes and the hardware and simulators. But if you want to use a desktop for working with robots, then MATLAB and Simulink actually comes in handy, where you can do everything in simulation and then deploy it directly onto the hardware through ROS nodes. So these are some examples. This is a work that was done in a university, US, where they are trying to coordinate multiple robots. So this we generally call it as swarm robots, where you have collection of robots moving together, making a functionality, and they are all coordinated. Okay, so they get to know where each other robot is. So there is some interaction between them, and there is also a space study, okay, because it actually moves around in a 3D space. So it has to understand where it is and how to move, what is the maximum area that it can move. Now, the other two videos that I have, okay, so this actually is one among our student projects where they tried developing a robot. What you need to understand here is they did not directly jump into hardware. Now, what you see is they have developed a simulation, they have designed, they've modeled a robot, and after testing it in the simulation, they take it to the actual hardware. So the simulation is more important. Now, this is another robot that was again developed by a set of students, which is a parallel manipulator, where you have multiple actuators, the links, wherein the end effector or the base of this particular robot, the top of the robot will always be stable, and these you can see in various simulators, okay, the flight simulators, or whenever we go for 70 cinemas, movies and all that, your seat actually base is always flat, but then there is a lot of movement below in order to give you a feel of the real environment. So such kind of robots are all first tested in a simulation space and then taken for the real hardware. What we do now, simulation is, when I say a configuration space, this is actually an answer to a very simple question to a robot. If you ask, where is the robot right now? So the answer is the configuration space. So where is the robot means, are you talking about this place? Are you talking about this particular location? Or are you talking about the end effector's location? The answer is you have to give all these locations when I say a configuration space. So when I ask for a configuration, a specification of the position of all the points in the robot put together is actually called a configuration space. So if I have a base, now this actually in a diagrammatic representation, I can represent it like this because I have a base. Okay, base is shown here. Now what you see here is there is a small joint which can actually revolve around. So I have a theta, okay, which says this point can actually revolve around, and then I have a shoulder, and then there is an elbow. So these representations and the angular movement, whatever, all these has to be represented together. So when I say a configuration space, the configuration space should actually represent Q1, Q2, Q3, depending upon how many joints and how many points you have on the robot. Now this link I have shared here. Now what you can do is you can actually try going to this particular link in order to better understand the configuration space. Okay, this you can do it after the lecture now. Now when I say two spaces are available and you're trying to represent it as a configuration space. Now I have one robotic object, a robot as a 3D object, and I want to represent the 3D object in form of a configuration space. Okay, so remember, you will not be representing the robot as such in the way you look at it, right? So in the previous diagram and in the previous slide, the robot is available and you give a diagrammatic representation which is more or less similar, right? They both look similar, but when you go with a configuration space, it need not look similar. That is why we say two spaces are topologically equivalent if one actually can be deformed into another without cutting or gluing. So if you look at these two objects are topologically equivalent because we are not cutting or gluing anything. Probably we're just blowing it up, and it forms a different shape, right? So you need to understand that two spaces are actually equivalent even if they do not look similar. This is number one. Number two, when you have a configuration space, when you're trying to represent the configuration space, you're representing it using some other coordinates. You're trying to represent it in some other form. Now we keep representing it using an explicit parameterization or implicit representation. Explicit is, suppose I have a circular object, okay, and I'm trying to represent it in terms of latitudes and longitudes. So I would say how many latitudes are available, longitudes are available, and the other way of representation is I can actually represent it using X, Y, Z coordinates. Okay, so what you understand here is, if you go with a circle, most of the time we would say latitude and longitude will be more easy, right? But the problem that we would face here is, because it is a 3D object, what will happen if the robot, if you represent a robot as a circular object and or a spherical object, and you're trying to represent its movement. Now what happens here is, what will be the movement? Suppose I walk here at the center, somewhere near the equator, okay? If I walk at a speed of 20 kilometers per hour, okay, 20 kilometers per hour, that is the speed at which I'm trying to move. Now if you walk near the equator, now the distance that you have around is large. So the movement that you do, though the speed is same, the distance that you cover is very large. The same speed, if you move somewhere at the top, which is very closer to the north pole or the south pole of this particular object, in that case, you will move a little faster, or you will be able to cover more number of latitudes and longitudes, which may not be correct when it comes to modeling a 3D object. So most of the time, we will try to represent, almost all the time, I would not say even most of the time, all the time we try to represent all these configuration spaces only with the implicit representation, using your X, Y, Z coordinates. This is the second point that you need to understand. So now see, when I represent
Ma'am, your voice is muted now.
okay.
Yeah, now it's clear, ma'am.
Okay, so what we try to do here is, we are trying to actually have design a robot using just two links here, and this is going to be a base. Now what you see here is, if there is a link saying L1, which can actually revolve around. So assume that you see axis here, X and Y axis, and there is a Q1 which actually represents the angle at which this first link can actually bend around. So I would have a maximum of 0 to 180 degree movement for my link 1. The same way, link 1 is connected with, using a joint, it is connected to another link called L2. Now what happens here is, when I want to represent this robot as a configuration space, the topology could be something like this. Now what you see here is, what you see as a robot here is not something that you see here, but the configuration space, the topologically, these two are actually equal. Now, if there is a question on if sometimes there might be few students who still are not able to understand how these two are actually equal. I have another animation to show you how this works. Now, what I want you to understand here is, one single point or one single position of the robot. I am trying to take one point X comma Y. I have Q1 and Q2. Rather than taking as X and Y, I am representing now in terms of the angle at which these two links have actually moved around. Okay, so when I take this Q1 and Q2, remember it can move from 0 to 2 pi. Okay, if it is 0 to 2 pi, then where is the current point? What is the current position of the robot? There is one single point. So you're trying to transform the entire robot into one single point when you use this configuration space. Now, I'll actually brief you a little more on how to convert this link into the configuration space a few slides later. But before that, you also need to understand that when I have an articulated object, this actually is a combination of multiple rigid bodies. It is not one single body. Now this is, a base is separately a rigid body. This is actually a rigid body. One link is a rigid body. And then I have joints which actually connect two or more rigid bodies. So a combination of all these put together will be called an articulated object. And that is what we are trying to see it as a robot. Now when I said there are joints here which actually connects multiple links together, there are different kinds of joints here. A revolute joint, which actually will be able as a connectivity, a joint between the base and the link here is actually a revolute joint. Why? Because it actually helps this particular link in order to revolve around. Prismatic joint is actually a linear movement, so it actually allows you to move along one axis. Screw joint again is 1 degree of freedom, allows you to move around one axis, but it is more similar to prismatic, but then you have a screw where it actually revolves and enters in or moves along one single axis. You can have cylindrical, you can have spherical, you also have planar. Now what we will be more concerned about is for the exercises that we deal with during this workshop is only on revolute and prismatic joint. And in fact, we also have a fixed joint where there is not much of movement. A fixed joint is two links are connected together and they are fixed. Not much of a movement is actually available there. So we will be focusing on exercises where we will be developing robots using revolute joint and prismatic joints. Yeah, the same thing. When I have a fixed, I told you something like a steering that we have. Okay, not much of a movement, a relative movement between these two bodies. So they just move jointly together. That's it. So revolute is actually, you have a single degree of freedom. So you will be able to move across, the limits will be from -pi to +pi. You also have a prismatic joint which actually moves around. Now we also call it as a sliding joint, and the position limits here will be -0.5 to +0.5. So the maximum is actually 1 meter, assuming that. Okay, so now these three are three different joints which we will be focusing during this particular workshop. Now let us see. I have a single joint here. Now what you see here is, I am not now showing it like a robot, but more of a systematic diagram, and whatever you will see in MATLAB is something like this. The robot itself will see only, you will see the robot only as small sticks connected together representing joints and the links. So what I am trying to show here is, now I have one link here, and then there is a joint which actually connects the second link to the first link of the robot. Okay, and this is my base coordinate. Base coordinate is my 0, 0, 0. Okay, the origin where your simulator is actually represented here, and I might have moved my base a little away from the origin. It is possible. Now what I'll do is, I'll just show you an animation of how this particular link moves. Now when you see the movement here, depending upon the movement, you will see a point on the topology, which means when the movement happens here, now what you would see here is, if I have link 1, this link 1 can revolve around 360 degrees, right? When this revolves around 360 degrees, what happens to the point here? It might revolve around this circle, and then when this revolves around, it can actually move around the entire circle. So when there is a movement happening here, there can be a movement happening there as well. So you will have concentric circles around the first circle that is drawn, and that is why we get this particular topology. Now, apart from a 3D topology, we will also represent it in a 2D configuration space, each point at one particular location where the X and Y falls. Okay, so I'll just play this animation. Please see how it moves. Now, as it moves, you see that the point actually goes around, and as the second link alone moves, it actually revolves around the same place. Now, both the links are moving. You will see some random movement here. I hope it's clear. You want me to play it again? Just once. So, the kind of joint. See how it moves, and in the configuration space, how the point moves. So for different joints, your topology will differ. But what is interesting is all these movements can be represented in form of a configuration space. Now, what you see here is the representation of configuration space is common. There's no change in it. Probably I will change the values here, okay, depending upon the amount of movement, the size of the configuration space. Depending upon that, my configuration space limit will extend, but it can be represented using the same kind of approach. The same thing is actually given as a picture, but I guess animation is more better for you to understand. Just because you might require the values here, I have also given the picture representation. Now, the next thing that we need to understand here is actually degrees of freedom. Degrees of freedom is, suppose I have an object here, okay? What all ways this particular object can actually move, that is represented as a degrees of freedom. Now, what you would see here is, if an object is in space, assume that there is a 3D object which is just hanging around in space. It can actually linearly move along x-axis, y-axis, and z-axis. So there are 3 linear movements, and then in each axis it can also rotate. So I will have a 6 degree of freedom. DOF actually represents degree of freedom, where I have 3 linear movements and 3 angular movements. And all these 3 will have different names here. What you see here are actually the names. Up and down is actually the y-axis. Back and forward will be the z-axis, and right and left will be the x-axis. Now, apart from these 3 linear movements, along one axis, it also rotates. So we have 3 rotation movements called as roll, yaw, and pitch. So these actually represent 6 degrees of freedom. Now, what happens with the robot is, robots are not hanging in a space. It is actually connected to a 2D plane, right? A robot is somewhere connected to the ground. So now what happens? You are giving a constraint. There is a constraint on the robot saying it cannot move wherever it wants. There is a constraint here. So when you hold a 3 degree of freedom in a 2-dimensional plane, what happens is you will have 2 linear movements and 1 angular movement. Okay, so what I mean by this is, suppose there is a 3D object here, and I say that this end of the object will always lie here. Okay, will always lie to this, but or will be grounded to this particular point. Now what happens, I will make an angular movement. This pencil actually can turn around all 360 degrees. That is the only movement, angular movement I will be able to do. When I try to translate, which means when it is fixed onto a plane, it can move along x-axis, it can move along y-axis. There is no movement in z-axis because it is already lying onto the plane. So we have two linear movements and one angular movement when a 3D object is fixed onto a plane. Now what you understand is, here also you have a 3D object, here also you have a 3D object. This is lying, this is hanging in space, somewhere in space, you have 6 degrees of freedom. Here it is actually fixed onto a plane, you just have 3 degrees of freedom altogether. Okay, so this must help you to understand as you bring in constraints, as you have added constraints to an object, it reduces the degrees of freedom. Now, again, an example to show on one single object. Now what we have here, this is a rigid body and there are no constraints here. It is just hanging. So as I told you already, it actually contains 6 degrees of freedom. Now assume I am saying this point of the object is actually fixed. You are actually fixing it to a particular base. Now what happens? You will have 3 degrees of freedom, which was already mentioned. Now over to this, you are adding another constraint saying this 3D object has, you are adding up another constraint saying the second point should always be here, which means the distance between these two are fixed. Okay, so which means I have added one constraint which will reduce my degree of freedom by 1. So if you add one more constraint, saying if you add a third point and say that these 3 points should be only be in this particular arrangement, you are reducing the degrees of freedom by 1 more. So what do I mean by degrees of freedom now? You are trying to take the overall number of freedoms and reduce it by the number of independent constraints you have. So this has 6 degrees of freedom, this has 3, and as you keep adding up constraints, it keeps reducing. All right. Okay. So now we'll directly go to MATLAB and see how to, you don't have to work now. I'll just finish explaining each step and then probably you can try all together. I'll give you the complete code. Now what I want to do here is, when I develop a robot, remember each part of the robot is going to be a rigid body, right? So when I try to create a rigid body, I need to give a name to each rigid body that I create. So the command that actually helps you to create a rigid body is very simple. The name says rigid body. Remember the capital letters. It is case sensitive, so you will have to go ahead with the capital B here. And similarly, there are so many other keywords as well. Please make note of wherever capital letters come. Now what happens here is, I'm trying to create a rigid body with a name called body1. You can give any name to it. It's up to you. But remember, I am going to give a name of body1, and after creating, I'm assigning this rigid body to a variable. And these two need not be the same. It can be different as well. Just for easiness, we are using the name of the rigid body and the variable the same so that it will be easy for us to identify and use it. So body1 is a variable name. It actually creates a structure. It is not a simple variable, but then it is actually a structure that gets created. Now the structure will have this particular, these are the various elements inside the structure. The elements are, first the name of the body is actually available. Name, as I said, we have created by giving some string, and that becomes the name of the object. Right now, we have not mentioned whether this particular body contains some joints so that another rigid body can be connected to it. So right now, there are no rigid body joints available. It is just one by one, which means this is the only joint that it has right now. Then the mass by default, because we have not incorporated any mass, we have not given any weight to the robot. So the mass is actually 1 kg, which is by default allocated to any robot. Center of mass, we have not assigned now. So right now 0, 0, 0, which represents your XYZ. Is there any inertia along your XYZ? By default is allocated. Are there any children to this particular rigid body? Will there be multiple links available here? Now all these are actually the properties or the additional features that we will be adding up to a rigid body. So right now, when you create the first rigid body, all those are just assumed as 0 or 1, taking up the default values. Now, to a rigid body that we have created, we will try to actually create a joint. Okay, so what happens here is, only if you create a joint, I'll be able to add another body to the robot. Okay, so I'll be able to connect 2 rigid bodies together only if I have a rigid body joint. Now, what we have here is, I'm trying to again give a name of the joint. The joint's name is going to be JNT1, and I am trying to give the type of the joint as well. Now, the type of the joint can be modified. Instead of revolute, you can give fixed. If you don't give any joint type, it automatically assumes it to be fixed, because this is your default joint type. And then you can also use a prismatic joint. So we are trying to cover only these 3 type of joint types. So I've given you an example of all these 3. Now, when you create a joint, what happens is, the type of the joint is mentioned, the name of the joint, whatever we have given, again is mentioned. Also remember, this variable name or the structure's name is up to the user to decide what you want. So the joint axis. Now here, this is something that you need to remember. Joint axis, this is by default now set as 0, 0, 1. What does this mean? This is again X, Y, Z, and you are trying to create a revolute joint which will allow the next body that you are trying to connect to revolve around the Z axis. Okay, so the joint axis, because it is 1, the next object that you are going to add will revolve around the Z axis. Supposing you want the rod, you want the next link to revolve around Y axis, then your joint axis should be actually 0, 1, 0. How do you do that? You will have to set the joint axis separately. Okay, so right now we are not setting it. All the values that it has taken, except the type and the name, all the values that it has taken is by default. Okay, now position limits, what we saw was for a revolute joint, I told you the position limits are always from -pi to +pi. So it has actually taken the default values. Supposing you say, I have designed a robot which cannot go till 180 degrees. It can only go from 0 to 90 degree. Okay, your design is that way. Then your position limits, you will have to set it accordingly. Home position is from where, in which particular location the joint is currently available. Now remember, the joint to parent transform and child to joint transform. Now these two will actually decide how the robot is going to move. Now when you move your hand, okay, you're trying to actually pick up some object from the ground. Now what happens is, you have multiple joints in your hand. Now your elbow, there, the shoulder joint, there is one joint which actually helps you to revolve your entire hand. And then you have your elbow joint, where there is a link, upper hand is a link, and then the lower hand is another link. Okay, so when you're trying to actually pick up something, remember the movement happens both in the upper link and the lower link, and it happens together in such a way that your end effector or the finger will be able to reach out to this particular object. So the transformation is basically what modification you have to do from where in a current place, I mean, from this position, you are trying to move to another position. So when you move, is it just a translation motion? Translation is just a movement along one axis. So is it just a translation movement, or is it a translation and rotation, or is it just a rotation movement? It could be a mix of all these transformations put together. So a joint's transformation can be applied to a parent. At the same time, the child's transformation will be applied to a joint, because there is a hierarchy in the robot. Okay, so you have the first rigid body, and then you have a joint, and then you're connecting to a child object. Okay, so when there is a transformation, it happens to all these three objects depending upon what happens to the joint. So that also is represented as a property for a joint. Now, when the transformation happens, we will have to actually look at the homogeneous transformation matrix, which represents what amount of movement actually happens in each point of the robot. So supposing, assume x, y, z, okay, x1, y1, z is the current location of a point on the robot. You are assuming any one particular point on the robot, and you are representing it as a Cartesian coordinate. So you're trying to say the xyz of the current position of a particular point. Now what happens? You will have to multiply it with a homogeneous transformation matrix, which is a 4D matrix. Once you multiply, then you will get the new location of the same point. Okay, so new location of the same point after transformation, after doing the movement, is x2, y2, and z2. Now, the interesting thing is, I should know how to build this particular transformation matrix. Now, this transformation matrix will contain two information. One is the rotation matrix, and another one is the distance matrix. Rotation matrix is if there is any rotation that you do to the robot, okay, using all these joints, you are trying to rotate it. That rotation will be represented here, and your distance matrix will be actually represented here. Now, what do I mean by a distance matrix? Supposing one link that connects has a specific length, then the total transformation will be different, right? Which is like, you just have a 1 centimeter stick, 1 meter stick, and you are trying.
Ma'am, your voice is muted, ma'am.
Somebody mutes or what? I don't know. Okay. Fine. So what I was trying to explain is, when I have, I guess rotation matrix is okay. Depending upon the joint's rotation, depending upon how much revolution it makes, each joint makes, the rotation matrix will be defined. And the same way, the distance matrix is that if you have one link of some specific length, okay, if I have a 1 meter scale and I am trying to revolve that link around, okay, create a revolution using the 1 meter scale. Now, the distance that it can cover is 1 meter around the center point. Supposing the link length increases, saying I have a 2 meter scale. Now, the distance of the movement or the transformation that I can make is totally different. So the distance matrix will take into consideration the length of each links that are available, while the rotation actually, rotation matrix represents what revolution, what amount of rotation takes place in each joint of the robot. Okay, so now the translation, the movement, okay, which corresponds to this distance. This is actually represented by Tx, Ty, and Tz, right? So which means the translation that you make or the movement that you make along x-axis, y-axis, and z-axis is represented always in the fourth column. And the fourth row, fourth column is always 1, because you are actually working on only a 3-dimensional space. So there is nothing there in the fourth row here. Now, what happens in terms of rotation? Because these two are the movements that are available in a robot, a rotation and a translation. So translation always comes in the fourth column. Now, rotation can happen along 3 different axes: x-axis, y-axis, and z-axis. If it happens around the z-axis, then your rotation matrix is this. If it happens around x-axis, your rotation matrix is this. And if it happens around y-axis, your rotation matrix is this. Now, what am I representing? All these are actually representing only one, either, if this actually represents the clockwise rotation along z-axis, clockwise rotation along y-axis, and z-axis again. It can also be, anti-clockwise rotation. When you do an anti-clockwise rotation, what happens? The sign of these coordinates actually change. Don't bother about it right now. So all that you need to now remember is we have a translation matrix which actually varies depending upon the size or the length of each links that we have in a robot. And the rotation matrix concentrates upon what revolutions that you make using a joint, how much revolution each link makes depending upon the joint's movement. So these two put together becomes my homogeneous transformation matrix. Okay, so this is a fundamental part of any robot to start with. Now, assume I have a robot like this. This is a Puma robot where you have different points to actually look into. Now, the base point or the starting point is actually x0, y0, and z0 that you see here. Now, there is not much of a difference between x0, y0, z0 with x1, y1, z1 because both falls in the same point, right? So what I will be looking in is, if there is a joint here, then will it have some rotation? This link, okay, this link actually can rotate around. If it can rotate around, it has some angle. I will be representing the angle at which this particular point rotates as θ1 here. So I should be developing a transformation matrix in order to represent the revolution along this particular point. So now, because you know the rotation matrix is represented like this, the first 3 actually is represented here. So the revolution actually is denoted with an angle of θ1 because θ1 is the revolution that happens at the first point. Likewise, I have T2, T3, T4, all these are represented. Now, what you see here is, if you take T2, now what happens is, there is something called D2. D2 is what? D2 is actually the distance. Distance is the length of this particular link. Okay, so because the length is along y-axis, okay, this actually shows the x-axis, y-axis, and z-axis. So the length is actually taken along y-axis. So the length is actually represented as d2 here. And whatever rotation it makes, whatever theta that you have is represented here. Now what happens here, what you see here is cos, minus sine, and minus cos. So it actually represents an anti-clockwise rotation. Okay, so each along each point, along each joint that we have, we are coming up with a transformation matrix which corresponds to the rotation and the distance of each link, whatever is available. Now, finally, to represent a new point of the robot, all these transformation matrices are multiplied with the current XYZ. Currently, the robot is at one particular position. After doing some transformation, it goes on to a new XYZ. Okay, so when I try to find out where it has moved, I will have to multiply with all the transformations with the current point in order to understand the new XYZ. Now, how do you do this? The mathematics seems a little complex, but when it comes to MATLAB, it is very, very, very simple. Okay, so right now what I've done is the joint 1, whatever we have created, we are setting the home position of joint 1 as pi by 4. Okay, so pi by 4 is pi, automatically MATLAB considers it as 3.14. So it tries to take that value divided by 4, and that is considered as the home position of the joint. Now, I am trying to create a transformation matrix. This homogeneous transformation matrix has to be automatically created if you just say the Cartesian coordinate. I just say along X, along Y, and along Z, what is the transformation that I'm expecting? If I represent that, this function saying vector to transformation, okay, transfer the vector to a homogeneous transformation matrix. When I give the 3 axis values, it automatically creates a transformation matrix. Now, I can use this transformation matrix on the joint in order to get the new XYZ, right? So you don't have to break your head in order to find out the new transformation matrix. I mean, you don't have to break your head to calculate and get the transformation matrix. MATLAB automatically does it. Now, what we have done so far is we have created one rigid body, right? We have created one rigid body, and we have also now created a joint to the rigid body. Okay, this is just a pictorial representation. You will not get this picture when you create in MATLAB. Just to understand this representation is available. So there is a joint that we have created as well. Now, once we have created a joint, now what we need is we want a parent and child kind of a structure in order to connect all the rigid bodies together or multiple rigid bodies together. So what we try to do is we are trying to create a rigid body tree. Okay, so once we create a rigid body tree, all the components will be moved to the rigid body tree, and saying that, if I want to add a body as a name called robot, you are naming it as a robot. This is the name for the entire tree that we have created. Now what I want is I am adding body 1, which was already created. You remember we first created body 1. So I am using that body 1 as the base of my robot. Okay, once I create it as a base of the robot, now what happens? I can actually repeat the same functionality, whatever I have done so far. What I do is I'm trying to create a new rigid body as body 2. I'm creating a new joint again as a revolute joint. I set the home position. I create a transformation matrix, and then I say you are going to use a fixed transformation to this particular joint. Add this body. This is important. Now add the body 2 to body 1. Remember, base is the starting point, and then from base you are going to create another body and connect it to body 1. So your robot now becomes like the robot that we were discussing earlier, with 2 links, okay, and a joint which actually connects these 2 links. Now you can actually build the robot depending upon how many bodies you have and how many joints you have and how it is going to work. Now what you see here is there is something additional here. Now so far I've been telling about vector to transform alone, where you give a Cartesian coordinate of x, y, z and convert it into a new x, y, and z. Now we are actually introducing something called an Euler transform as well. You would have learnt about Euler angles. Okay, instead of just giving x, y, z, where a linear movement happens, apart from the linear movement, if there is also a rotational movement where you are also specifying the angle at which it moves, so these two put together can actually be created as a homogeneous transformation matrix. It is not just linear alone. Okay, so even if you have rotation and linear movement both happening together, all that you do is just along x, y, z, tell what linear movement and what rotation movement put together, your MATLAB function actually creates the 4-dimensional homogeneous matrix, which can be applied to the joints that we are creating. I guess I'll stop here, and then we will try doing it in MATLAB. Are you all having MATLAB right now open? Do you want to try it along with me or what?
Guys, please reply in chat box.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just open up. Just to save time, I've just already typed all the commands here. Okay, so I'll just go one by one. Okay, now what you saw here is actually the first command when I created the rigid body. Are you seeing my screen?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It's visible.
Okay, so what I've done is we are just trying to create a rigid body. So what I'll do is I'll just remove the semicolon so that you will be able to see the output here. Yeah, so what you see here is something that I told you. A structure is actually created in the workspace. You would actually see that there is one rigid body that has been created, and inside this rigid body, inside this body one, we have actually the joint, mass, center of mass. All these are actually given some default values. Now what I do here is, the next section is where I'm trying to create a rigid body joint. Okay, so I would have, I can actually, okay. So what I've done is I'm just asking to show the robot. Okay, so if I say show robot, it will actually show me whatever rigid body component that has been created, because I've already created. I'll clear all the variables. Okay, now, okay, so the name of it is not robot. Okay, fine. So okay, so now what happens is, now what you see here is, after creating a rigid, because the name I have given here is a robot, I have not declared it here, you got the error. Now what happens here is, I have created a rigid body tree as a robot, and what you would see as a robot is something like this. I can zoom in. I can also rotate it to see how it looks like. Okay, so what happens is, this bar, whatever you see here, is actually representing X, Y, and Z. So you will understand X is actually shown in red. Okay. Now what happens here is, if you see the red or the x-axis in this particular joint is actually facing this way, whereas in the next place your x-axis has actually turned. Okay, so which means depending upon the home position, the axis actually revolves around. That shows how the links in your robot actually moves around. Okay, so now what I want you all to do is just create one rigid body and just create the joint also. I'm just having the code here. You can just use the same piece of code. And at least complete till this part, where I'm adding up a second body. I've created two bodies and connecting it to the first body.
Ma'am, at the end of the session, can we have a text of the program, ma'am?
Yeah, I can send you.
Yeah, sure, ma'am. Thanks a lot, ma'am. So guys, don't worry, we will be sharing the program.
Can I have a mail ID to whom I'll have to send? I guess I'll send it to an organizer's mail ID rather than it will be too difficult to send it to everyone. So if it is an organizer's mail ID, it will be easy.
Madam, you can upload in chat box, madam.
The entire. Okay, so I'm just doing it. Let's see if you have got. Yeah. Yeah, I've typed it in the chat box. Please
Yeah,
have a
sure.
look. Yeah, part of the code is available. Once you complete this, I guess I'll give you the other part of the code as well.
Guys, we'll be sharing the code in the mail with second day's link. So please don't worry, we will be sharing it. Guys, please stop typing your mail ID in the chat box. Please see to it, and we'll be sending it to you, but with the email. So please don't worry.
What I would like to understand is, are you trying up the code, and then probably if there are any doubts, I can clarify. Otherwise, I'll keep continuing. If you want to try it now, I'll just wait.
Ma'am, you can continue, ma'am. We'll be sharing it in YouTube, ma'am, again, the recorded session.
Okay. No, but what I wanted to understand is if they are facing some problem when they use the code, we should be able to help them.
Yeah, okay, ma'am. We'll be waiting. Ma'am, they're asking, please tell us about the joint access.
Okay, so joint access is if you are trying to have, no, 1 second, I'll just share the presentation. Okay. Now, when you see this joint, okay, are you able to see the rigid body now? Whatever rigid body that I'm showing, blue color.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So for this rigid body, I have a joint. Okay. And this joint is going to actually allow this body to revolve. Okay. So when it actually allows the body to revolve around, in which axis is it going to allow the body to revolve? Now this is like you have your elbow. Elbow is the joint. Okay. And from this joint, your lower hand, your lower level of hand is actually connected. Lower part of the hand. Okay. So now your elbow is going to allow your hand or the lower arm to revolve around. In which axis can you actually revolve? Okay. Now you can actually revolve around x-axis. The arm actually can revolve around x-axis. It can also revolve around the y-axis. How about the z-axis? Z-axis, your elbow will not actually allow, rather your shoulder joint will actually allow, so that the z-axis movement can actually happen. Is that clear? You want me to repeat? Am I making it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. So the joint axis is more important for you to understand how the next link will actually move around in the actual space. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just give you the entire piece of code in one single Word document to the organizers, and probably they will send you the entire code for you to test it on. If you don't have problems with just a rigid body tree adding a body as a base and adding another body using a joint, then you should not have any problem at all. Okay, that's why I was particularly giving you only until this. So probably if you try and then let me know if you have any problems, then I'll try to help you out. These are again repetitions just for you to understand that I can add multiple bodies and multiple joints in order to make a bigger robot. Now, when it comes to the end effector is the last piece. Okay, further to the end effector, there are not going to be many links available. So I can actually create something called an end effector, which means it will not have any link length like what I had for the normal rigid body. Okay, for a normal rigid body, I can also mention the length of the rigid body. So I don't have to have that here when I mention it as an end effector. And the end effector also will keep moving. So the end effector here could be something like our fingers. Okay, beyond figures, you're not going to have anything. These are going to actually work with the environment. So I have an end effector here. This also will have some homogeneous transformations because the end effector has to move in order to pick some object from the environment and all that. And where are you going to connect this end effector? You're going to connect it to one of the rigid bodies that we have already created. So one robot can actually be created. And now you can see how this robot actually moves. Now this is one command which actually says random configuration. Random configuration is the homogeneous, four-dimensional homogeneous matrix will actually take random values and see how transformation gets applied to the overall robot. Okay, so you can see the changes in the robot to see how it moves around as the configuration changes. Now you can also, supposing I've created a robot and I want to remove a body because during design process I want to make modifications to the structure, that is also easy. So what you can do is you can take an entire sub model of the robot as a separate tree. So what I've done is, I've used a subtree command saying I'm creating a subset of the robot that I have created. So here, when you create a subtree, you will have to say, are you going to use the same rigid body object that you used as a base for this robot also for the another robot? May not be required. So now what you do is, in this example, we have taken body 2 as the base, which means I have eliminated body 1, but we are trying to consider the subtree only from the body 2. So from body 2, I am trying to create a new arm. And in the new arm, what all will I have? Body 2, 3, 4. All these I'll have. Now I am not interested in body 3 as well. So I'm trying to remove the body 3 object, and I'm trying to also remove the end effector. So whatever is required, you can actually hold it, and whatever is not required, you can actually eliminate it using one simple command called a remove body. Now what happens? You can create new bodies as and when you want. Okay, now when you create when you want to have the same properties of the objects that you have already created, like duplicating the existing object. So what I do is I use a get body of body 2, and then I'm making a copy of it, storing it as a new body 1. Because why? Because both are currently available, which means in one single program you are trying to handle 2 different robots. If you're trying to do that, especially if you see collaborative robots or the robots that are having 2 hands. Okay, you would have seen industrial robots with 2 hands. So you will have 2 different robotic structures, one representing the left hand and the other one representing the right hand. So when you are trying to replicate one robot into another, remember to change the name, because your MATLAB program will not work provided you have two rigid bodies with the same name. So every time you copy the body that is already created and you're duplicating it as a second robot, remember to change the name. So copy actually duplicates, but you will actually give a different name to it. So every time you copy, after copying, you will change the name to some other name that you prefer. Okay, the same thing applies for the joint as well. You will create new joints, taking a copy from the existing object, and then create your own robot. So now I'll just go with again the MATLAB part. Now what you would see here is when I just want you to notice this part. Yeah, the configuration part. Now what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to run this section, okay, this section alone again and again. Okay, so what happens here is, as I said, when I go with the random configuration, these values, how many joints have we created? We have actually created 4 joints here in this program. I've added up 2 more bodies here, 2 more joints here, and for all these joints and bodies we have some transformation matrices, and all these applied together, this is my robot. Okay, now what we are doing is, when I try to check random configurations, what happens? So just notice these values that are available here as I execute this particular section. Now what happens here? I am getting a new position for all the 4 joints. With 4 new positions, what happens is, you know, I will be able to see this is my position. Okay, suppose I run this section again, right? I run this section. So every time, I run this section, my configuration for the joints will differ, and you can noticeably see a difference in the robot also, depending upon where exactly the rotation has happened. Now you see a totally different joints are available, and this is what I talked about saying the homogeneous matrix, 4-dimensional homogeneous matrix. Now what has happened is, there are revolutions happening in the joints, and each link also will have certain length. Right now in this example, we have not mentioned any length for the links of the robot, right? So all the links are actually considered as 1, 1, 1, or 0, or whatever. So this distance is actually taken by default, and the rotation matrices, the entire transformation matrix, comes from the configuration of the joints. Okay, I also have a second example here where I have set 2 link lengths saying L1 and L2. Okay, now when I create a body, a rigid body, remember I am specifying the joint axis here. You can say how the rotation is going to happen, and for each link, when I create the link, remember I'm specifying here. Now link 2 is actually created, and when I create a transformation matrix, you see along x-axis I'm saying this link is going to have L1 as the length along x-axis. So which means my length of the first link will actually take 0.3 as a value. So as you create new links, you can actually assign the length of the link. And you can also mention in which axis the length is, or in which orientation each link is currently present. Is it in y-axis or is it in x-axis? Depending upon how you are designing, you can actually modify and specify it as well. And I told you about the joint axis. Now I'll just show you this in a diagrammatic representation. Now let's say show robot here. Okay, now what you see here is I have asked for a show robot here. So it represents the robot at this particular point. Now at this particular point, what has happened? I have created a rigid body with link 1. Okay. And then I've created a joint with a revolute type of a joint. And then I've said my joint axis is going to revolve around the Z axis here. The same thing I have done here also. When I created a link 2, I have done the same revolute joint, probably representing the link size alone. Okay. Now what I do here is, instead of L1 is what? 0.3. Instead of L1, I am going to change it as 0.6. Okay. Now you should be able to see the difference here when I run this section. Happened. Oh, it has been already created. Yeah. Now what you would see is the length between these two links has actually increased. Okay, if you notice the scale here, you will be able to, yeah. If you notice the scale here, you will be able to see what actually happens. Now, what I'll do is I'll create a section break here, okay, rather than creating it again. And, okay, so now I'll just clear. Okay. Now what I'll do is, instead of 1 in the Z axis, I am trying to modify my joint axis along Y. Okay. So now what will happen? Yeah. So now what happens here is, when you actually revolve or when you change the joint axis along Y, now this axis, whatever you see here, the pictorial, I mean the X, Y and Z, the colored representation, this also changes depending upon where it actually revolves. Okay. Now what I have done is, when both the joints are actually revolving around the same axis, if you see link 1 and link 2, both are revolving around the same Y axis, you will see both represented along the same axis. Last time when I asked you to change, just when I showed you, when I changed just for one link alone, this axis and this axis will be totally different depending upon how you revolve or in which axis you try to revolve. Okay, so I guess I'll stop here for today. And I'll be sending these two programs to the organizer, and they will actually send you the copy of it as well. So if there are any doubts so far, any questions?
So guys, here we go on to the Q&A session. Thanks a lot ma'am, for providing us this much information regarding robotics. So we'll be having a Q&A session now. Ask your doubts here. So questions can be asked in the chat box.
Are there any topics specifically that the students want? I am planning to actually take you through some application where you will be able to develop some path planning, where you will actually be able to see one small robot that is moving around in an environment in tomorrow's session. Today, because you should know first of all how a robot is actually implemented in MATLAB environment. I have just taught you this. Apart from these, is there any, if at all there is any specific topic that is to be covered, just let me know. I'll see if I can cover that as well.
Ma'am, there is a question. How can we what we should write in TRVEC to T from function?
Actually, it is a transformation function which converts your Cartesian coordinate into a homogeneous transformation matrix. Now, what we will know is how much movement you have to make in the Cartesian space. Okay, Cartesian space is the normal x, y, z space that we currently have. So when you know how much movement a robot has to make in x, y, z space, your MATLAB will not just move one single point alone. Each point has to move in the same way. So there requires a lot of matrix calculation. Okay, matrix. In fact, we call it a homogeneous transformation. That is why we were discussing about a 4-dimensional matrix in order to see how each point of your robot is going to move depending upon what movement you require. So you will have to provide only the amount of movement that has to take place in x, y, and z. Once you know that, you will pass on the values to the function that I have given.
So thanks a lot, ma'am. There is another question. How can we decide the value of homogeneous matrix?
Homogeneous matrix is again if you know the link length and the angle of rotation. These two are the main values that you have. The homogeneous matrix totally relies upon the theta value. So if you know theta, you will be able to calculate cos and sin theta, which represents the rotation. And then if you know the link length, you will be able to provide the distance matrix. So it could be a mixed transformation as well. Not necessarily that it will move first linear and then rotate, not required. While rotation, it can even do a translation. That's how robot works. So you will be taking rotation separately, you will be taking distance separately, multiply these two matrices, and then you will get one 4x4 transformation matrix if you want to do it manually. Okay, and when you have more number of joints in a robot, if it is just a 2-link robot with just one joint, then it becomes easy for us to calculate. As the number of joints and number of links are increasing, then it becomes too very complex for us in order to solve the problem. And that is why we rely upon robotic system toolbox, because it becomes so very easy. You don't have to break your head to calculate.
There is another question, ma'am. Thanks a lot for your answer. So, and in rotational matrix, that is the 4th dimension. What is the 4th dimension?
Actually, if you look at the 4th dimension, you don't have any 4th dimension in a robot. But in a homogeneous transformation, starting from 2D, okay, starting from a 2-dimension, what we do is, this is a mathematical concept. We are trying to do what? A mathematical or a matrix multiplication, right? We are trying to do a matrix multiplication between two matrices. The first matrix is what? You are trying to have X, Y, and Z. Okay, we are having 3 points in the Cartesian coordinate. We are trying to multiply this matrix with something called a homogeneous transformation matrix. What is that homogeneous transformation matrix? Containing 3 values for rotation and 1 value for distance. So which means your homogeneous transformation matrix size is going to become 4 columns. 4 columnar matrix is multiplied with 3 row matrices with 1 column. Okay, so your matrix multiplication will not happen at all. I guess matrix multiplication rule is one matrices column should be equal to the other matrices row. So in order to match that criteria, they have added up 1 row to the homogeneous matrix.
So thanks a lot, ma'am. That's all for the Q&A session, and thanks a lot for providing the session. The session was so wonderful and knowledgeable, and thanks for providing us the session, and thanks for the opportunity given, ma'am. Thanks a lot, ma'am. So we'll be meeting tomorrow, ma'am.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Yeah, fine, ma'am. Guys, please fill the feedback link as soon as possible. It will be closing at 8 p.m. sharp. So any other queries regarding the mail or otherwise, like in Google Meet or anything like that? Guys, any queries regarding the Google Meet, mail, and networking, such things like that?